Zimmerman lived alternately in France and the United States during her early life. She earned a BA with highest honors in 2002 from the College of William and Mary, and her Master's of Fine Art in 2004 from the University of Delaware. While on fellowship, her watercolors are the subject of a book published in 2017, Little Watercolor Squares, and her award-winning paintings and drawings are exhibited and collected internationally. Zimmerman is obsessed with bikes and lives in Winston-Salem, North Carolina with her husband and 6-year-old son. Please help me welcome Jessica Zimmerman.
Hi, how's everyone doing?
Hi.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Jessica Zimmerman, and I graduated from College of William and Mary in 2002. And it is a little bit surreal to be back here in this lecture hall where I had my first art history classes 20 years ago. So first of all, thank you to the Art and Art History Department for inviting me to be here and to participate in this exhibit. Thank you. It's an honor. So I'd like to extend a special thank you to Professor Brian Curdatis. Professor Curdatis was my honors thesis advisor during my senior year at William and Mary. He encouraged me to work in a way that I would never have imagined for myself, and he did this in a way that put no doubt in my mind that I had the ability to do the work. He set the standard of workmanship that I still to this day expect from myself. While studying with him, I also began my serious study of other artists' work, and it was while researching those other artists that he recommended that I began to understand the lineage one belongs to as an artist. It's a testament to his understanding of this lineage that I still frequently refer to the work of those artists he recommended. Because of my year of study with Professor Curdatis, I have a better understanding of my place as an artist, so thank you. So today I'm going to share with you a little bit about my artwork and about my path as an artist. And in honor of Women's Weekend here at William & Mary, I'll start my story at the moment in time when I became a mother. And I'm not equating being a woman with being a mother, but becoming a parent happened to be a defining moment for me in my art path. So that is my son running across the gallery. So for me, having a baby was the catalyst for my behaving as a professional in my art career. Up until that time, while I was making artwork, it was sporadic, and I was very unsure of myself as an artist. About 2 months after having a baby, in that sleepless fog that many parents, I think, are familiar with, I felt like I was losing my sense of self in taking care of this little person. And it dawned on me that I needed to make art every day to reassert myself to myself. Suddenly my priorities became very clear, and I knew that I needed to make things not for myself, but rather to show my son what I did, who I was, to demonstrate solid work ethic and a dedication to one's path in life. At the time we were living in Australia. We lived there for a couple of years, and my studio was in the contents of a little cardboard box that I kept on the kitchen table. And every day I would steal time, usually when my son was taking a nap, to make small pieces. Most of them were works on paper, like this, very small pieces that I could finish in one sitting. And so I made these for a year. Earlier I mentioned acting professionally as an artist, and so what I mean by that is that as a successful artist, you don't wait for inspiration to strike. You show up. You do the work, even when it doesn't feel good, even when you're tired, and then eventually sometimes the stars align and the magic happens. So we moved back to the US, and I found myself with a fairly large studio space in our garage. And during that time, I returned to making larger work, like Greenway, which is the piece in the Andrews Gallery. So this piece is important to me in my practice because I started to understand at this time the relationship of what I was experiencing in the outdoors, my experience outside, and how that related to my artwork. So this painting specifically is really about seeing the light. If you're hiking in the woods and then you walk into a clearing and there's this sensation of being flooded with light, or walking up a mountain, getting over the tree line, again, you have all this light that's flooding your senses. That kind of experience is very important to me, and it fuels my work. And around this time, I started to make this connection. Growing up, I moved around a lot. I never felt like I fit in, but when I was outside, when I was in the outdoors, I was at home. So I'm going to show you a video I shot during a hike. Hopefully the sound will work. Okay, so this is a video I shot at Pilot Mountain. This is a state park about a half hour north of Winston-Salem in North Carolina, where we live. And this is a really powerful place for me. So you can hear the birds singing, you can hear the crunching underfoot, the leaves. There are the changes in light, the shapes that are happening, of course, of the trees and the rocks, the shadow shapes, and the shapes of the sky. This is something I'm really interested in right now, especially. So the shapes of the sky between the trees, between branches, and when the sky meets the horizon. Also, of course, there's the temperature, feeling the breeze on your arms when you're walking, the smells, the smell of the earth especially. These are all really powerful things when you're in the outdoors. And these things fuel me as a person, and they go right into my work. So this is my painting, Pink Sun Fell Like Glass. I'll talk to you a little bit about my process, how I construct a painting. So generally I'll start a painting with acrylic paint. Acrylic dries relatively quickly compared to oil paint. So I can lay down successive layers without having to wait too long for them to dry. And when I'm satisfied with the surface, then I move in with oil paints and finish the painting with oil. As I work, the painting goes through a lot of changes. I don't generally have an image in my head when I start. And it's a process of sometimes adding shapes, sometimes obliterating shapes or combining them, and then starting to do things like refining edges, starting to harden some edges or soften some of them, and really working the sense of color in the painting. So sometimes working with the temperature and all of the different aspects of color. So in the finished painting, generally I look for a play between awkwardness and the sublime. The sublime aspect to me refers to nature, to the outside world, and the awkwardness is the human aspect. Let's be honest, really. So this is in my studio. I generally work on more than one painting at once. So this is one side of the studio. I have several paintings going. These are 12-inch by 12-inch. And then on the wall behind us, if we were here, at the time I had several bigger paintings going on. I almost always work on more than one painting at once for several reasons. So first of all, when you're working with oil paints, sometimes you want layers to dry before working on top of them. Sometimes you work wet into wet, but a lot of the time you have to wait for things to dry. So in order to keep working, you can work on another painting while one is drying. Additionally, I work on multiple paintings at once because they inform each other. So sometimes I might have painting problems. I might not know what to do with a painting. And so working on another painting, stepping away from that painting with the problems, working on another painting will often help me figure out what's going on with the first painting. And then also, I think the paintings have a conversation. So when I'm working on a body of work like this, the paintings are speaking to each other. And I think that's part of my job as an artist, is knowing when to listen to the paintings and when to hear them. When sometimes it's a bit of a whisper, but being able to listen to that, and they do kind of communicate between each other and with me. This is my painting, The Field You Think You Own. So for this particular painting, I was thinking of a very specific place and a particular experience that I'm sure will be familiar to many of you. So at the time that I made this, I was living in the Charlotte area near in North Carolina, and I lived near a field, and I loved this field. I would go and sit in the middle of this field and paint. Painting from life is an important part of my practice. As you can see, most of my paintings are abstract, but painting from life is an experience that I take into my work. So both what I see and what I absorb around me, but also the practice of doing that. So anyway, I was painting in this field, and I would return to this field and work. And the field changed. So first, the tree line, the trees were cut down, and so the tree line receded. The field initially got bigger. And little by little, apartments started building up in the far distance by the forest. And little by little, the apartments encroached more and more on this field. And then eventually a shopping center was put in and the field disappeared. So this is a pretty sad experience for me because I was attached to this field. But I think the most profound part of this experience for me is to take an experience that's pretty negative, all in all, and to make something beautiful with it. And I think this is one of the most important or more profound parts of art making or experiencing art. In that same period, as I made the last painting, I made this one, so light igniting fields, trailing clouds. And what I'm dealing with in this painting is still some of this geometry of architecture, kind of encroaching on the land. I really enjoy architecture and I enjoy the geometry of it. So for these paintings, it's a way of investigating the relationship between these more geometric structures and then the more organic shapes of the landscape. So it's really just kind of creating a painting problem for myself to solve. As far as, I'm losing my place. Okay, so as far as when a painting is finished, I get asked this a lot, especially because the paintings are more abstract. When do you know when they're done? And there is a fine line. I think it's very easy to go overboard and to overwork paintings, but it's maybe even easier not to work enough. There is a certain freshness to new paintings, and I do think they need to go through very awkward stages until things start to gel. But in the finished paintings, what I'm looking for is a balance between refinement, roughness, drama, romance, and awkwardness. I think that's what makes them beautiful and human. So this is some very current work. So in this year, I've been working on a series of paintings more directly inspired by Pilot Mountain. So the video I showed you earlier, I went on a hike and took some photos and did a body of work using photographic references. And some of them are more abstract, some of them are more representational, like this one. So this is Pilot Mountain 4, and I'm going to show you a little video of the making of this painting. So this is a time-lapse video that I made, and the reason I'm showing it to you is this is very unusual. My process is not typically so linear. Like I mentioned, I generally do not have an image in my head when I start. Even when I have a photographic reference, it's really just kind of a jumping off point. Whereas with this painting, I combined several images, laid out a composition, and then it just kind of moved very organically in a very more easy way than paintings generally do. So it turned out very lucky for this video. But so at the start, I had laid out my kind of drawing for the painting, my composition, and then you can see things have kind of shifted, and I've adjusted shapes here and there, and then it's a process of adding things. I didn't obliterate things as much as I did in this painting. Like I said, this happened much more easily. Generally, my paintings there's way more of a struggle that happens. But I'll let you watch the process. I got almost all of it. The battery died at one point. Right, so that's the finished painting. So around the same time as I've been making the pilot mountain paintings, I've also been making my Forces of Nature series of paintings, which rather than being about a very specific place, are more generally about being outside. So in this case, the forces of nature. So wind, water, all of the forces that help shape the environment and that influence our time in the outdoors. So I've got a whole series of these. These and the pilot mountain paintings are currently in an exhibit down at Salem College in Winston-Salem. So to jump forward, what I'm working on now is a project for next year. So this is going to be an installation at Elder Gallery. So this is Elder Gallery of Contemporary Art over in Charlotte, North Carolina. And the idea behind this is to create an experience that evokes the outdoor environment. So I'm going to be building a mountain of paper. And the reason I'm doing this is because as a painter, my work is about the intersection of the outdoor experience and how that intersects with art. But because painting is inherently a two-dimensional experience, in a sense it's limited. And so the idea with this installation is to create a more immersive experience for viewers. So the installation has two parts: the paper mountain installation that's going to be taking up most of the gallery, and a video projection of skies. So for the paper mountain installation, I'm using paper to create a massive mound or mountain in Elder Gallery. And the paper used is not a robust material, it's paper. So I hope that by layering the experience of such a large mound with a relatively delicate material, that this will help convey the fragility of the environment. The second part of the exhibit is the sky project. For this project, I'm crowdsourcing photos of the sky from all over the world and projecting them on one of the gallery walls. So the sky images will form a large grid that will gradually change as new images are added. The project is a reaction to the outdoor experience as filtered through our phones. We take photos of everything and everywhere, and some of us think a lot about what our photos are going to look like on our phones or on Instagram. So the question I'm posing here with this project is, how do we continue to have unmediated experiences in nature with a constant distraction of our phones? So for this exhibit to happen, I need partners to cover the costs of the project. So you can learn more at jessicasingerman.com/papermountain. If you're interested in funding the project, I encourage you to visit the site, and if you know someone who might be interested, please share the site with them. On the webpage, you can learn more about the project, what it's about, why it's important, different ways of contributing, and how you can contribute photos to the Sky Project. So I think the obvious question at this point is, why do this? Why make art? Why spend time making things and creating experiences? I believe that art is important more than just for personal reasons, but because it promotes community connectedness. In this increasingly digital world, we need to feel a connection to the real, to each other, and to the world. Ultimately, my hope is that projects like Paper Mountain and my other projects will encourage people to commune with nature and to experience the world directly. Through exploration and conversation, art can help create empathy. Art encourages us to dream and to exchange ideas. We desperately need to have conversations with each other these days. As an artist, I feel fortunate to be a part of this discussion. And I would love to continue this discussion with you in the reception, and after today, you can email me at create@jessicasingerman.com, and you can connect with me via Instagram and Facebook at Jessica Singerman Fine Art. Thank you so much.